with all that being said, it still sounds like it's still worth living in Canada because the pros outweigh the cons.
For sure. Look, I get it. The Toronto real estate market is confusing. Whether you're a new or experienced investor or just looking for a home to raise your family in, join us at Broadview Table Talks as you sit around the table with my friends and talk about the real estate and the ever-changing market in Toronto. Okay guys, welcome back to another edition of Broadview Table Talks, and we are in mid-January today. So today when we're filming this, mid-January, by the time you see this, it's probably the third week of January.
Yeah.
Shouldn't take us this long to release a podcast, but for some reason it does. Anyway, so we wanted to talk about how the first part of the year has been shaping up and where we see the trends of this year.
Yeah, so it's really no mystery that, the end of last year was a lot quieter than usual. We've never seen numbers like this since the year 2000, I think.
That's
our last
right.
podcast.
That's right. 65,000 sales.
Yeah.
In 2023.
Yeah.
And last time we saw that was in 2000. Sorry.
Yeah.
So 23 years ago.
Yeah. And so the discussion that we've been having at the office this week is that it seems like there is a little bit more optimism. Now, it's a little bit too early for us to pull numbers. I mean, the stats aren't officially out yet. But, one of the things that we usually do is take a look at the market and see what's happening on a day-to-day basis.
Just from the ground level, how we feel, because we're agents that are out on the street every day, right?
Yeah, exactly. And just knowing the market and just really keeping an eye on things. And it seems optimistic. It seems like anyone who was on the fence before, they're sort of testing the market and they're jumping back in and, really dipping their toes in the water.
Okay. So what are you seeing out there?
So just from today's Tuesday, and it's usually the day after the most activity, Monday, and then it sort of just draws on along the week. And
so hold on, explain it again. So start on Monday is when new listings come out.
Yeah.
And new listings come down.
Right.
Right.
And then activity sort of dips off like Thursday, Friday, and then it sort of gets a little bit quieter, and then the weekend activity happens, open houses, whatnot, and then people start picking back up activity on Monday.
Right. So for those of you guys out there that don't know, that are new agents in this industry, some people like to list it whenever they're free. And generally, if you look at your calendar, it's about like Saturday maybe or Sunday, right? Because everything's quiet down a little bit. People don't call you as much.
Yeah.
Maybe you're busy with your weekend plans and all that, but don't list on the weekend. I find it's better. I know maybe it's an old tradition, but I think you should be listing on the beginning part of the week. So anyway, I like this. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 19 years now, I think.
Yeah.
So in the beginning of the week, Monday, you get a fresh set of eyes, new week, back to work. On your breaks, you're searching on MLS or whatever. Kids are in school. So I find that there are more listings, and truly, I think you should list it on Monday.
Yeah. I don't think I don't think it's just like old fashioned lore, by the way.
Yeah.
Because Stratus, our back end system, is noticeably slower on Mondays.
True.
Noticeably.
True. And then you know what? Our broker based system, it tracks that, and they got bought out by Trab, right? So everybody, except for a couple offices, use Broker Bay,
right? And
you can see the new listing statistics on day by day.
Oh, yeah, true.
Jump up on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right?
So there is actually truth behind that lore, that myth.
Yeah, I think so.
So we are seeing what I like to think of as optimism in the market. One of the listings here at 155 Dalhousie actually sold at list price. Granted, it's $470,000, but it's a studio apartment in a somewhat niche building. Not everyone likes the layout. Not everyone likes the building. And it's been on the market for 62 days, 2 months.
What?
So it's sold at list, which I think...
That's a great deal.
It's a great deal, yes. But it's also a buyer who said, you know what, I'm not going to negotiate on this. I'm just going to offer list.
Yeah.
And get it done.
Yeah.
And to me, that sort of indicates that buyer is just done waiting and is ready to jump back into the market, despite what interest rates might be. They might be thinking, okay, interest rates are probably going to go down a little bit more in the future. I'm just going to jump in now, because that's not the only one. There's also a 1-bedroom at 170 Bayview, sold for list at $540,000. It was on the market for 76 days. Like, they're just snapping up these older listings that have been on the market for a while.
Show me some that are larger, some larger ones. Because, so the studio near TMU, Ryerson University, that's a no-brainer. You got to buy that for the long term. $470,000. If you're going to send your kid to school, university for the next 4 years, buy something when the market's low, and today. That's a no-brainer, because I think those things are going for mid-fives.
Yep.
Okay,
let's go for freehold. Semi-detached in the East End. Sorry, not East End. 19 Osborne. 3-bedroom, 3-bath, 2 parking. 7 days on market, sold at list at 1.372.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Like, granted, these numbers are a lot lower than pre-interest rate
2022.
Yeah. But
or even the spike of 23, the small little spike.
Right, the small little spike.
In spring, yeah.
But the fact that these numbers, these sold prices are not below list, kind of tells me that the buyers are just ready to stop waiting.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of factors to that, right? Like, I think, with the announcements that are out there in the media and whatever, the Bank of Canada kind of trickled out there, they're indicating that we're pretty much at peak rates. We have to cut soon. First of all, before the mortgage renewal cliff, and for those of you who don't know, if you have a mortgage, you generally buy with a 5-year term.
Right.
And if you got it at super low rates, which has been the case for the past 2 decades, up until the rate hiking cycle started in February or March 2022, if you have 5 years from that, if you sign up for a 5-year term, you're looking at 2027. So people generally sign up for anywhere, well, except for variable, I'm talking about the fixed rate mortgages, they sign up anywhere from a 2 or 3 year to a 5-year generally. Right. Some smart people did 10 years, but that's looking back and that's kind of pretty cool. But anyway, so assuming 5 years, that's 2027, where all the mortgages are going to reset by then. And by being reset, I mean, if you got a mortgage at 2%, you're going to go to 6% or 7% if the rates stay where they're at.
Right.
So the stat is that more than half or just over half are going to reset in 23, 24, and 25 and 26. So that could be big issues when you're not used to paying these payments, right? So your payments can go up by 50%, which is a lot if you're already struggling to get by.
Yeah. So it's definitely going to hurt a lot of people, especially when they're suddenly like, okay, well, where I'm going to make up the shortfall of what I was expecting to pay when I bought this place with where interest rates are now.
Right.
So,
and this is all but done by design too, though, right? This is what the Bank of Canada wanted for us to cool down spending.
Yeah.
But with that, because spending's going down, that means we're getting to recessionary measures where people start losing jobs and stuff, right? Because the economy's so tight and nothing's moving, and we're not going as high. Yes, inflation's killed, but then it's like everything else is kind of killed too. Yeah. So in other words,
end of last year, we saw unemployment rates go up to 7%.
Right. I mean, unemployment rates are kind of not crazy high because of all the amount of mass immigration that we have going on, right? Yes. So it's kind of keeping it low. Yeah. But ultimately, you feel it. Like our economy is really suffering. Yeah. Like everyone out there is hurting. Yeah. Right. And I think that with that in mind, the Bank of Canada can't keep the rates this high for that long. Yeah. And actually, I was listening to an interview last night with on BNN with David Rosenberg, and he was saying that. And he used to be an economist at BMO, I think it was. Anyway, he's on his own now, and he was saying how 1.5% to 2%. 150 to 200 basis points of the rate hikes where they are now are just extra. They went above and beyond. And to just bring it down to regular measures, you need to drop it at least 1.5% to 2%. Right. And then from there, we can start stimulating the economy again. Yeah. So, obviously the Bank of Canada isn't going to do it quickly. They're going to do it slowly and trickle down these rate drops. Yeah. But the fact that the rate drops are coming is a great sign for buyers to get off the sidelines and start thinking that, hey, maybe, if these rates go down, real estate prices are going to shoot up, and now's the time to buy.
And with that in mind, it also seems that, buyers are optimistic enough about the market that they're also not worried about the property tax hikes that are coming.
Yeah. That just made the headlines recently where our city of Toronto hasn't been approved yet, but it's going to be proposed, and who knows what will happen. But Olivia Chow is trying to raise our taxes by 10.5% minimum. And then if Canada doesn't kick in certain money for this refugee stuff, it's going to be 16.5%. Yeah. And it's not just Toronto that's feeling it. There's other provinces. No, seriously, there's other cities throughout Canada. Majority of them, even Hamilton got a 14% increase. Right. And a few other places got pretty big increases. Yeah. So I think it's a matter of, it's going to be fact that we're going to get these double-digit increases, which is the highest increase we've ever seen. Right. Since for a very long time, I think it was.
After a historically long period of minimal property tax increases, though.
Right. So Toronto has the lowest amount of property tax, the rate. It's 0.62% or whatever it is. Compared to Mississauga, where it's over 1%, and York region and all that as well too. But our property values are higher in Toronto, so that's why it ends up being more the actual physical amount of tax. But if you think about it, to your point, what you're trying to say, I think, is that 10.5% of, or call it 10%, just for round numbers, of what, $4,000 for a regular condo, for a 2-bedroom condo, $3,000 for a smaller condo. Right. $300 a year, which is not that bad. $400 for a 2-bedroom. And then if you're looking at a house, maybe you're on 6, 7, 8, 20,000 a month.
Yeah.
I mean, a year. Sorry,
A year. Yeah.
So even if you're at $20,000 a year, that's really only $2,000 more a year, which is not that bad.
Yeah, especially if you start spreading it over a period of 12 months.
Or yeah, depending on how you pay. Right?
Yeah, depending
6
on how you
payments
pay it.
or 2 payments or 1 payment even. Actually, no, you can't do 1 payment, but 2 payments.
Right.
Or you just pay up front, right?
Yeah.
So it's not horrible. I mean, the number sounds bad. And of course, at a time when we're all feeling the pinch, like an extra little bit of just that stab in the gut, it does hurt and it just sounds bad. But it is what it is, right? Like there's so many wonderful things that Toronto has to offer, like I keep mentioning.
Yeah.
That, yeah, you're right. I think to your point, it's not going to hold people back. Yeah. And I think even with the land transfer tax increase, the new municipal land transfer taxes over $3 million.
Yeah.
Again, I did a previous video about it, but the first little bit is not going to make that much of a difference. Up until 5 million, it starts really doubling up. And then I think at 13 million of a purchase price, that's when the municipal land transfer taxes double.
Right.
Right. So it depends on what your threshold is. If you're already paying
over 5 million,
whatever, if you're paying $100,000 in land transfer taxes, like what's 110? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like, but then if you're paying 300,000 and then you got to go to 600,000 now, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Right? But then again, if you're buying a $13 million home, like, yeah, whatever, right? But like, I'm not saying that rich people, like people that can buy a $13 million home, $14 million home, is that it doesn't impact them. Of course it impacts them.
Yeah.
And it's not ideal that they want to spend that kind of money. So maybe it does slow down the appetite of people trading up. But I argue that people that are buying $13 million homes aren't really necessarily like, yeah, they're selling maybe their $5 million homes to move into that. But freeing up that $5 million home doesn't unlock a lot of inventory because some people will never reach that amount ever.
Right.
And they don't want to, or even if they can, they don't want to.
Yeah.
In Canada, in Toronto anyway.
Toronto,
I don't think it's going to make that much of an impact, to be honest. Just the headlines and the numbers kind of scare you.
There's a sense that the news actually tries to sensationalize this, but once you're shopping for houses in the bracket that's north of 5 million, I feel like the impact is not as severe as if you were shopping below 5 million, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's like, I have to pay more in land transfer taxes, but I'm able to buy a $10 million house. So,
Well, like when dealing with these higher end buyers, like I personally like it better because I don't complain about the stupidest little things, right? Like this hardwood floor is a scratch in it or something. I don't like this island. Well, get a new island. You know what I mean? Like those problems aren't just problems anymore. You know what I mean?
So they understand that, the power of fixing it is easily within their grasp and not worth stressing.
That's right.
Stressing over.
That's right. Not saying that money doesn't matter.
Because they're able to.
Well, it's just that those problems aren't problems.
Right.
Because they have other bigger problems to fry.
Right.
And that's how they got successful in the first place.
Right.
So it's not about that, a dollar's still a dollar to anybody. It's just not about that. It's more that the problems aren't problems.
Yeah. Where are they going to focus their efforts and their energy?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Unless they're super wealthy to the point where they also have free time and then they start picking them. But that's a different story.
Yeah. That's an entirely different personality type.
Yeah. We've dealt with some of those anyway. Okay. So what else we got in? You know what? Actually, I saw the other day, it was yesterday, there was a townhouse in Vaughan. Crazy. So I personally think it was listed for $899. I think it's probably worth around 1.2, 1.3 maybe. I should check what it sold for. Guess how many offers there were?
In Vaughan.
Nice part of Vaughan. It was,
6?
Area. No, more. Double digits. I'll give you that hint.
You're kidding me. Double.
There's 30 offers.
30. Where did all those people come from? In Vaughan. Wow.
I mean, yeah, it's the entry-level townhouse, right? So it's good. It's severely underpriced.
I mean, entry-level townhouses in Vaughan are great because they all start off with 3 bedrooms, parking.
Yeah. It's a great product. Don't get me wrong. It's what everybody wants. It's that 1+ den that everybody wants downtown.
Yeah.
Versus
they're usually in family neighborhoods too.
Well, yeah. Anyways, it's what people want. It's the next condo alternative. It's the next step up, right? For sure. And for many people, it's their first starter home or even their forever home. Who knows, right? So I can't believe there's 30 offers in it. So if that was listed in June 2023 to like December, let's call it, right? That wouldn't have had any offers. People would be like, forget it.
Yeah.
I'm just not offering. I'm not competing.
Yeah.
Or they try to lowball. They try to buy for $899 or even like $800,000 or something, right? So I don't know. I just found it kind of peculiar that there's 30 offers on that place. And I sense that there's going to be a lot more of that happening now.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any of these like kind of multiple offers starting to happen?
No, not as many multiple offers, but I am noting that it seems like people are a little bit more optimistic about the market through, just checking on the listings down.
The sold price versus ask price.
Yeah.
So the sold versus ask price overall in December anyway was 97%. And generally it's hovering anywhere from 97 to like anywhere like let's call it 95% on a very, very low peak to like a low trough, I guess, to 105% at the very high peak back in like, what was that, 2018, something like that? Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while because we did also see 120, 125%.
Right, but on average though.
Right.
So it kind of hovers within that band. So 97% is actually not that bad.
No.
You know, maybe if you're on the market, you can argue that if you're on the market, you're going to be realistic anyway. Like you're not going to come up with like 2 years ago pricing, right? You're going to come up with something that's realistic to actually sell it because the idea is that you're going to list it if you want to sell it. Who wants to go through the pain of showings or whatever, right? Kicking out the tenant or having a vacant place.
Yeah.
So anyway, I found that really interesting, those sturdy offers. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that this year.
Yeah.
Partially because, well, definitely in the long-term fundamentals makes sense, right? Like even right now, last quarter, Q3, I think it was Q3 or Q4, they let in 430,000 people into Canada.
Right. That was Q4.
Q4.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's non-permanent and permanent residents. So if you annualize that, that's 1.6 million people, over 1.6 million. That's crazy.
Around 1.6 million.
That's crazy.
With what, a third of them heading towards Toronto alone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course they're going to the rental market because of the ban on foreign buying, right? Buyer tax or whatever. Yeah. And even if you're allowed to buy it, if you're here for a work permit or whatever, if you come here straight for the permanent residency, which is not very likely, then you can buy it, but you still have to pay a 25% tax if you're on a work permit, like, which is a significant amount of money. Yeah. And I do have one client who's looking to do that. So potentially he might buy something, who knows? But of course that's holding him back.
Historically, we've had one client do that between the two of us.
Did we?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyway, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It did?
Yeah. They paid the 25% tax.
That's crazy. I don't remember who that was. But
we had a play date with them.
Oh, no way. Really? Yeah. Are you kidding me?
No.
Yo, he's rich, man. No, I'm joking. Call a scam. Find another one. No, I'm joking. No, that's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of money. Like, he knows he's going to, their family's going to set a roots back here because they were from Canada originally.
It was a long-term play. It was just, it was the fact that they had to do it when they moved.
Yeah, because I remember he came here a few years back anyway, just to kind of test it out. And I guess he finally got his residency, which is great. Or he's going to anyway.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. And I think it was like a modest home for what they can afford too. So I think it was.
They definitely planned it carefully.
Yeah. That's awesome. I didn't know that. Okay, so that happens, but that's definitely for the most case it's pretty prohibitive for foreign buyers to actually buy. So they're going to rent something. Obviously, the rental market pushes up the demand for landlords to stay in the rental market, even though there's whole talk about this landlord tenant board stuff. But in the long run, I'm so long-winded. To make a long story long, sorry, Seth, it's so funny. To make a long story long, the point of all this mass immigration is coming in, and we're only building 250,000 homes a year, construction starts for all of Canada. Yeah, but because of the cost of capital and the lack of trades and the cost of input materials and all that kind of stuff and zoning and all that, it's going to be down to 200,000 housing starts by the end of the year.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, we have like 1 million people coming.
Right.
And if you call it 2.2 people per family, it's called, that's the average on StatsCan.
Right.
You still need like 500,000 homes, if not more.
Yeah.
Right. And we're only building like 40% of that. 200,000 to 500,000. Yeah, 40%.
Yeah.
So, and that's just this year. Imagine all the past 10 to 20 years that we've been doing this for.
Well, I mean, that's also why we've been talking about churn and people who move here.
But that's net immigration, though, right? Like people come here, we're still net positive 1 million people.
We are still net positive, yes.
Which is crazy. So in the long run, it makes sense. Interest rates are starting to come down, which makes sense. We've already had a dip, a correction, if you will, of anywhere, depending on what market you're looking at, from the peak in February 22 to now, but anywhere from 15 to 20%.
Right.
And the weather's getting better. Obviously, like as much as people don't say, like even, you know what's funny? Even during COVID and even like this past, like whatever, I've been looking at this market like 27 years. Yeah. We've been looking at the data. There's still the peaks and troughs of the seasonal stuff, right? So meaning that spring gets the highest price. Summer, everyone's on vacation. And then fall, everyone goes back up because kids are back at school. They have time to think about it again. And it's not just people with kids. Like it's just generally people stop enjoying summer, right? Because it's back to reality. So they start making moves, and then wintertime comes Christmas and all that, and the holiday season. So again, it drops down again in terms of average price and sales volume too. But that's been the case throughout COVID too, which is crazy.
It never changed.
I thought there'd be like a different hump or something. You know what I mean? Like, I remember
it was just all completely consistent. If anything, the hump was the biggest in the spring of what was it, 2020 when COVID first kicked off.
Oh yeah, when everyone just jumped into it again.
Yeah, everyone was like, okay, we're all working from home. Okay, we're just
but there was a bit of a dip at that time. I remember too.
Was the dip the spring and summer, and then the fall was the busiest, right? That's when everyone started leaving the city.
Yeah. I gotta look at the numbers again. I don't remember. My memory's kind of hazy, but I do remember at some point during COVID, like April, I was kind of like scratching my head, like, what are we gonna do? We're all stuck at home.
Right.
Everyone's gonna claim CERB.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, people started calling. People started needing homes. You know what it is?
Everyone was locked. Leave.
Yeah, everyone wanted to leave the city because it was crazy expensive, or just like there's no point being there. The square footage that you get would just doesn't make sense. And the people that stayed in the city wanted a den or working space or whatever, another bedroom. They're
stuck with like other people inside their 2-bedroom apartment. They're like, we need more space.
Yeah. That's right. So that was cool, but there still was seasonality to it, I think.
Yeah,
I felt
that was the one constant that we've always had.
Okay, so we got massive immigration and not enough supply. Dropping interest rates, seasonality. What else is pushing the market up right now? I guess lack of inventory as well too, because no one really wants to sell at let's call it a loss.
Yeah,
right. Which is the same thing as the lack of building, I guess. So I think over time, like now is a better time. Like I don't think there's any better time to buy real estate. And I don't sound like a regular real estate agent because that's what we all sound like all the time. But it's actually true. Like if you can afford the financing, which is of course, right? But like if you could somehow just tough it out and get approved for something that's modest, or just get your foot in something.
Yeah.
I think the fundamentals of real estate in Toronto and Canada, for that matter, makes sense because, maybe Canada becomes a place where, we're a failed country and because our politics isn't so great. And right now no one's happy with the current people in charge.
Right.
But I think it's, if you kind of look further out and you look at all the places that are torn with war and famine and all kind of stuff, there's like millions of people that want to be in Canada.
Yeah.
And
anyone who want an opportunity to come here.
They would kill to be here, I think. Like truly, I think they physically would kill somebody to be here. No, it's not a joke, but like, you know what I mean? Like they would.
I can understand that.
So I think it just kind of makes sense. Of course, yes, there's more opportunity in the U.S. and I like the U.S., but U.S. has their own problems as well too.
Yeah.
Their politics is even more broken than ours. The divide is more broken. Actually, I was talking to somebody too who is from the States and he understands both sides. He's living here for a while.
Right.
And he goes back and forth. And he was saying that in the politics, there's no middle class. If you eliminate, in the U.S., if you eliminate the middle class in a country,
right.
Imagine what that does for you. It's great if you're on the winning side, of course.
Right.
But then seeing the poverty, seeing the crime that comes with it, seeing the just like it's not good, and it just feels like it's like if you go to L.A. or whatever, it's like everyone's in gated communities, and there's like so much poverty in the streets,
right?
And aside from just like stepping over them and not like standing over them, like what I mean, just not
interacting with them at all,
homeless people or something,
right,
like that Valley Girl style, right? But like it creates so much, I guess, animosity in the culture and the fabric, the society. Like, I mean, I guess you experienced Thailand.
Well, if we're talking about LA, remember there was that TikTok video of a townhouse that someone was leaving from in their $100,000 car, and right outside the garage door was just homeless encampments, and that is like the divide in some parts of LA.
Yeah, but not just like the unsightliness of it. It's just the all the things that come with it.
Well, the crime, the crime, the poverty, and the fact that like you literally have that physical divide. It's literally just right outside your door.
That's crazy.
And the fact that there are such distinct lifestyles there with the disappearing middle class.
So that does. I mean, obviously, if you're faced with being in the presence potentially outside your gates of less wealthy people and lower socioeconomic status, and you're one of the upper ones,
right?
Versus being forced into the middle class like we are in Canada,
right?
I mean, I kind of would rather pick on the upper side, but like I don't feel good about it. But I'll just turn my blind eye and just donate somewhere. You know what I mean? Like
do what you can, right?
Yeah. But anyway, the whole thing is that U.S. is causing there's a lot of problems that you don't want to be in U.S. for that. And one of the things they also said was crime as well too. I think it was in the first week of January I had dinner with them. They said that there was like 100 and something shootings, school shootings in the U.S. already in the first week of January. That's freaking crazy.
Yep.
I mean, we have more stringent gun laws here for sure, but there's also not as much poverty, so people aren't pushed backs up to the wall like that.
It's relatively unheard of here.
Relatively, yeah.
It's scary, but it could potentially turn to that if we continue down the way that we are.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing too, The other thing, sorry to cut you off. The other thing I was thinking about that I just remembered was that their school system is crazy too. So our school, you know, it's post-secondary or even secondary for that matter, but post-secondary education is what, like 15 grand, 10 grand?
Yeah, it's subsidized by all of the taxes that you paid as an adult for your kids.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
As Canadian, sorry.
Right. So in the US, depending which school you go to, the prestigious schools are like 100 grand a year.
A year, yeah.
You know, even if a less prestigious school, 50 grand a year.
Yeah.
But then if you go to community college, it just like, it messes up your future path of your job. This is their experience that they told me firsthand.
Okay.
Because first of all, you don't get the opportunities to get into school.
Right.
Like they look at you like, oh, you went to community college.
Okay.
Your network suffers. The people you know suffers.
Interesting.
Right? Like when you get into those prestigious schools, you're rubbing shoulder to shoulder with like other wealthy people, which will get you favors and all that.
It opens doors.
Yeah, and that's why there's such a big climb to the top. And that's why the whole controversy about one of the politicians about something about they had to pay their way into school or something, bribe their way into school.
Okay, right.
Something along those. I forgot what that was called. But that's happening over there. And there's a big thing about getting into that school. And you have to get your SAT scores up. And then you have to like, I don't know, maybe somebody from the States can tell me again how it works. But I know is like the problems that to try to get into those schools makes a big difference.
Right.
Like just to get ahead. Right. Sure, there's more entrepreneurialism and you don't need school and all that kind of stuff. And I get it, that
Right.
as well too. But if you want a good job, you have to go to a good school.
Yeah.
And the quality of education and all that kind of stuff. Whereas here, it's kind of more universal. You know, like you can go to a regular university and not have to.
You can go to a regular college and still do fairly well for yourself here.
That's what I mean, right?
Yeah.
And then from getting into a good university, you have to get into a good high school to get there, right? So it's just kind of like, I don't know. I just don't think I want to be in the middle of that divide, especially if you're not on the winning side.
Well, I mean, we're selling Canada now, but the opportunities do feel like they're a little bit better here, even though we're taxed at such a high rate.
Yeah. There's different structures you can have to not evade, but like to avoid, like to plan for tax anyway.
Yeah.
At least, it's a part of life. And honestly, there's nothing really wrong with paying taxes. Like obviously, you don't want to overpay taxes, but our taxes go to good use generally, I think, and I think it makes sense, really. You know, and if you pay more taxes, you get better mortgage borrowing power. By the way, so that also helps. So I don't mind paying taxes. It's true, right? I mean.
With all that being said, it still sounds like it's still worth living in Canada because the pros outweigh the cons.
For sure. And there's other angles I'm not looking at, like that are actual problems that are in other parts of the world that are kind of actually really saddening. But anyway, so the whole point is that I think this is the down market to buy it in. I think by spring, everyone's talking about rate drops. The first rate drops hitting in March, April,
right?
Maybe May. Maybe June, I think.
Yeah.
So that's going to happen. But for sure, at some point, whether it's in spring or summer, it's going to happen this year.
At some point this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Optimism.
Yeah. Let's see where the market goes. I think I still believe in the long-term value of Canada and Toronto, for that matter. We're the financial hub of Canada. We're the city center.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see where it goes.
All right.
Closing remarks?
Stay tuned for our next podcast where we might have to, see how correct we are with our gauge on optimism in the first 2 weeks of 2024.
Like, do you remember those times when it was like a bidding war and we're like 30 offers?
Yeah, I remember those times.
Fun. That is not fun competing against.
It wasn't.
It's not even fun handling 30 offers.
No.
Like 29 people are going to be pissed off. First of all, you're going to get at least 2 RICO complaints.
Yeah.
Right? At least.
I know. I remember the day when we had to actually wait outside the house to do an offer night.
Yeah. That was even better.
Those were terrible.
Yeah.
I had to bring you might as well have had a printer just hooked up to your car.
I did. You know what I did back then? Before DocuSign was available, I had printed out 4 copies, blank copies.
Yeah, that's the training.
And if the client wasn't there, they would just pre-sign them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
and tell you the number over the phone.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously, I'm violating some kind of rules of that, but whatever.
I remember those days.
Yeah, but now it's all DocuSign, which is kind of cool. But the problem is you don't get the advantage of being face to face, belly to belly with the agent you're talking to, right?
I know, but those were face to face with like 30 other people back in those days too.
I remember being in offices and rooms were just super awkward, and the walls were so thin you can kind of hear what the other people were saying, and it was just like it's such a crazy frenzy.
Yeah. Now we're reminiscing on the frenzy feeding part of the real estate market.
I kind of think we're going to get there based on the fact when the economy turns around, people have money in their pockets again, and the wealth effect is fully there, and people have great jobs and bonuses, and the world is thriving again, which eventually will happen. It's all a cycle, right? Like at some point that will happen.
I know we had our closing notes, but one thing I have to say about this market right now that we've been in since the rate hike started happening was that the art of negotiation actually became more important. And you actually had to work with both the seller and the buyer side and actually make sure that things were good before you moved on, before you actually signed the agreement. And it felt a little bit more involved. And it was nice.
What do you mean, like prepping them?
To actually, do your job and negotiate, and to actually understand the value of things and go through the process carefully instead of just throwing down the biggest number you can with no conditions.
Right.
Like,
okay, so what you're saying, what I'm hearing anyway, is that enjoy this time. Enjoy this market of negotiations where you can actually negotiate.
Yeah, exactly.
If you have a deal in front of you, right? If you're looking to buy something, negotiate.
Exactly.
And if it means throwing out a bunch of lowballs, do that. If it means you might have to accept a lowball, work it.
Yeah, work it. Like now's your time to actually talk to the other person on the other side of the table and come to terms with an agreement.
Right.
Like now's the time to actually do it. Not like before with 30 other people and you're like, okay, who's got the best offer?
I'm getting really annoyed though. We have a couple of assignments out there right now, and I'm getting so annoyed with people calling, hey, are they willing to sell a loss? Hey, I want them to walk away from original price plus a loss. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Get out of here. Stop. They're just stress sellers.
They got to bring something to the table.
Anyway. All right, guys, stay tuned. Catch you next week. If you have any comments, let us know. And if this is the first time seeing us, by the way, make sure you subscribe. And the reason why you want to do that is because you might not ever see us again if you don't subscribe, if you found value to this, if you've made it this far. So please do that. See ya.
Add it up.
Thanks for sticking out to the very end. I hope you got some value out of this. Do me a favor, please press like and subscribe. But more than anything, leave me some feedback so we know what to produce for you going forward. Thanks again.